I'm not going to show the legs video. We're not even going to show a still image from the legs video. Like, if that's why you're here, you'll have to go elsewhere because it's genuinely too upsetting to show, and I don't want to surprise anyone with it because it changes you. I mean, yikes. I'm in two minds about some of the stuff in this video too, to be honest, but the legs video was a step too far. That pun was not intended. Apologies if that makes me a soy boy cuck, but there we go. Point is, wrestling's bloody dangerous, lad, featuring many bloody dangerous lads, landing many bloody dangerous bads. Turns out NXT and AEW weren't just competing for ratings this year, they're competing to see how many athletes they could shelve. So this list is all about injuries we saw happen live. So Edge getting injured in a Backlash reshoot doesn't count, nor does Johnny Gargano almost getting killed by Ridge Holland's power slam on a pre-taped NXT, or Ridge Holland's own, oh god no, awful pre-taped NXT injury. But yeah, just so you know, we didn't forget them because, oh god lord no. Merry Christmas, everyone. Here are 10 insane 2020 injuries we saw happen live. Number 10, Chelsea Green, SmackDown, November 13th. Fate has not been kind to Chelsea Green. I mean, considering she was doing great stuff with Robert Stone in NXT, but got called up to Raw for a debut segment that ended up getting cut and then was stuck in purgatory for months, WWE has also not been kind to Chelsea Green, but this time it was mostly Fate's fault. After an age of Chelsea Green being AWOL from TV, she finally made her official SmackDown debut on November 13th before immediately breaking her wrist in an almost imperceptible moment during a fatal four-way match with Natalya, Liv Morgan and Tamina. Green was standing on the ring apron when she was drop-kicked off by Morgan. As she lands, and you can barely see it, her hand thumps down to the ground before she immediately grabs for it. Chelsea Green was supposed to win that match and advance to Survivor Series, however the injury put pay to that with Liv Morgan going over instead. Just awful, awful luck. Number 9, Angel Garza, Clash of Champions. WWE ran some form of Angel Garza versus Street Profits 11 times in 2020. 11 times, either singles or a tag with Andrade or a tag with Austin Theory. Like, a fifth of the year's programming featured Garza mixing it up with Montez Ford or Angelo Dawkins. At this point, you might as well just move in with them Three's Company style. And by the way, Dawkins would be the janitor getting annoyed at Garza leaving his tearaway pants all over the apartment. During their last match at Clash of Champions, Garza literally couldn't take anymore and suffered a quad injury. Towards the close of the match, Garza catches a kick from Montez Ford before hitting him with a knee. Apparently, though, he put a bit too much mustard on it and felt a pop, which ended up being a small quad tear. To the audience at home, it was clear that something was wrong as Garza had difficulty standing, tagged out, then spent the rest of the match on the floor outside, leading to a hurried and botched finish. Thankfully, by sitting out the rest of the match, the injury didn't get a lot worse, and Garza only missed a few weeks of action. Number 8, Kris Statlander, Dynamite, June 10th. Like Chelsea Green's injury, you wouldn't know you'd seen Kris Statlander get hurt in her tag match teaming with Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose and Penelope Ford if you weren't told about it in the news after the fact. Towards the finish of the match, Kip Sabian gets involved, little rascal that he is, when Statlander hits him with a tope suicida. As she falls, she lands on her knees, which ended up giving her a high-grade tear in her ACL. As of recording this list, Statlander still hasn't returned to the ring after having surgery at the end of July. This year's been absolutely brutal to AEW's women's division, with some being unable to travel due to COVID, leading to some like Bea Priestley and Sadie Gibbs being released, Statlander getting injured, Abaddon suffering a throat injury in a pre-tape match and needing to be hospitalized, and then of course, there's this. Number 7, Britt Baker, Dynamite, May 20th. One of the few live episodes of Dynamite before Double or Nothing, the May 20th edition of the show saw 2 wrestlers getting injured in the form of Rey Fenix and, as would turn out to be much more serious, Britt Baker DMD. Baker was set to wrestle Kris Statlander at Double or Nothing. That match carried a terrible curse, I guess. During a tag match pitting Britt Baker and Nyla Rose against Hikaru Shida and Statlander, Baker was sat in the corner when the babyfaces picked up Nyla Rose and hoofed her right onto Britt's knee. First of all, terrible idea for a spot. If someone of Nyla's size is going to land on someone else, she should be the one controlling her trajectory. And second, yeah, you knew straight away. Rose landed right on the leg and Baker immediately turns to it. Not in a melodramatic selling fashion, but like, Then, in what's become a bit of a grim trend in AEW this year, the injury is not recognized immediately. The match continues, and while it's clear that Baker cannot jump to take a driver from Statlander, she's hit with the move anyway before she's mercifully allowed to tag out. Awful stuff, but top credit to Baker, who turned her wheelchair-bound role model character into one of Dynamite's weekly highlights. Number 6, Karrion Kross, NXT TakeOver 30. Seriously though, 2020. Like, yes, for obvious reasons, but so many of the injuries on this list came at the worst possible time. Obviously, there's no good time for an injury, but there were so many derailed pushes, perhaps none more than the mega push of Karrion Kross. Captain Smokey Spooks and his beautiful clock girlfriend debuted in May and super monstered his way to being NXT champion by August. Unfortunately, that title reign would come to an immediate end because by the time he pinned Keith Lee at TakeOver 30, Kross was already injured with a separated shoulder. Fans who were perplexed by what should have been a mega Hossfest ending with something of a whimper, had their confusion answered when WWE revealed Kross had suffered a separated shoulder during the match. You can actually see calling over the referee, who also places a hand on it. Knowing he's hurt, Kross continues with the match, even taking a fucking spirit bomb, which is not great. He wins the title before vacating it the very next week. The next NXT champion would surely have better luck, right? Number 5, Kairi Sane, Raw, June 1st. It's sort of amazing that WWE managed to cut around this as best they did. So Nia Jax had not one but 2 scary run-ins with Kairi Sane in 2020. Ones that might make the Pirate Princess glad she didn't stick around in the company for a third. The first happened on April 20th during a match on Raw where Jax picked Sane up, walked her across the ring and threw her too early into the turnbuckle, meaning her head and neck pinged off the turnbuckle. Scary stuff, but thankfully no injury. Moved then to a rematch on June 1st, which would end up being cut concerningly short after Jax threw Sane into the steel steps, with Sane suffering a nasty gash on her forehead when it collided with the stairs. Oofed. Kairi covers her head, turns away from the cameras before being quickly put back in the ring for a hurried leg drop and pinfall to end the match before the blood really started flowing. According to Dave Meltzer, this incident wasn't actually Nia's fault, and that Kairi was in control of the fall, but yeah, after a number of botches leading to injuries for Bayley, Zelina Vega, Ember Moon, and of course Becky Lynch, fans have been less than forgiving to Jax. Number 4, Alex Reynolds, Dynamite, October 21st. Christ. During a fatal 4-way match which saw Young Bucks versus Butcher and the Blade versus Private Party versus 3 and 4 of the Dark Order, Alex Reynolds and John Silver, the handsomest member of the cult took a horrifying botch that could have been a lot more serious. Lying in the middle of the ring, Private Party hit him with an old Hardy Boys special, a combo big splash and leg drop. When Cassidy overshoots and lands with full force on Reynolds' head, what happens next looks at first like great selling, before the sinking realization, nah, he's out cold. In the middle of the ring, no less. The botch has similar DNA to the Royal Rumble 2003 botch, where Edge accidentally landed flush on Chris Nowinski's head. That botch eventually ended Chris Nowinski's career and started his hugely important work into examining concussions. It was a scary moment for AEW, especially during the moments after the injury, where Reynolds just lies there with other wrestlers moving around him, which is, you know, really dangerous. He was out for almost a full minute before people started the process of getting him out of the ring and checking on him. Not the scariest moment of AEW this year. We'll get to that, but pretty close. Number 3, AJ Styles, Royal Rumble. Welcome back, Edge. Oh no, you've killed AJ Styles. That's me joking. It was just a bad accident, but god damn, Styles took a tumble. So Edge returns looking like he spent the last 9 years fighting wolves in the woods and goes on something of a spear spree. Styles takes the last one and as a punctuation mark sells it with a flip. Unfortunately, he doesn't get full rotation on it and he spikes himself right on his shoulder, separating it much like Karrion Kross had done. Immediately realizing that he was hurt, AJ Styles got himself eliminated as quickly as he could, even before Luke Gallows arrived, in case fans were confused as to why Styles was gone before Luke Gallows could arrive and complete the OC trio. Styles went on to publicly stress that the injury wasn't Edge's fault and that he overdid the sell, leading to him getting hurt. Thankfully, Styles recovered in time for Mania, where he proceeded to be literally murdered by The Undertaker. Number 2, Finn Balor, NXT TakeOver 31. 31 was Finn Balor's first TakeOver defense of the NXT Championship, which he won after Karrion Kross vacated it due to injury after NXT TakeOver 30. Turns out, 2020 is a fucking cruel bastard, as yes, not only did Finn Balor suffer a nasty injury, but also so did his opponent, Kyle O'Reilly. At this point, we should probably just burn the NXT Championship at the stake just to be on the safe side. During the match, which is bonkers good, by the way, check it out, right at the end of the brutal match that saw both men bleeding from the mouth after stiff shots aplenty, Kyle O'Reilly hits Balor with a running knee in the corner. This knee broke Finn Balor's jaw in 2 places. Balor's eyes go immediately wide with shock, turning and clutching his jaw before he's hit with a German suplex, and Christ alive, that must have hurt. Balor immediately climbs the turnbuckle and hits Carl with a coup de grace to prematurely end the match, and even as the bell rings, you can see his swollen jaw. And the fact that he was still able to do the show respect spot with O'Reilly after the bell, well, Finn Balor is just one of the toughest sons of bitches on the fucking planet. And number 1, Matt Hardy, 2020. Bad year for Matt Hardy, this. In WWE, he kicked off the year having his head kayfabe bashed in by Randy Orton to further his storyline with Edge. Then he left for AEW, only to have his head repeatedly bashed in for real. Like, accidents happen, of course they do, but say what you will about WWE, at least that neck brace was fake. There are 2 main very bad things that happened to Matt Hardy's head this year, both involving his feud with Sammy Guevara, which started out as hardcore playful and gradually became a snuff film that you just wanted to end. The first was on a pre-taped episode of Dynamite on August 5th, which saw Guevara throwing a chair like a javelin directly into Hardy's forehead, busting him wide open hard way. The second, and much worse incident, we all saw happen live, and it was horrible. At All Out, in a broken Exhibition rules match, Guevara and Hardy climbed a lift with tables placed close to it, way too close to it. When Sami speared Hardy off the platform, they overshot the tables with Hardy smacking his head on the concrete floor, knocking him out. Awful. What happened next may be one of, if not the biggest miscalculation in AEW's short history. The match was initially called off and then allowed to continue, with staff doctors giving Hardy the all clear. After previously being unable to stand, falling down, hitting his head again on the floor, Hardy was allowed to finish a wrestling match, including the closing spot, which involved Hardy climbing the stage structure, which, like, I don't know, man. How is that anything other than a terrible idea? Hardy's wife was rightfully furious at the company, and they received a ton of backlash online for the judgment calls of both the doctors and the production team. Thankfully, Hardy was and is okay, but just wrestling doesn't have to be this real. And that's our list. What are your, favorite is the wrong word, but what has stuck with you this year? Let us know below in the comments. Don't forget to like and share this video around, and make sure you subscribe to WrestleTalk for more great news and lists. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and jam that jam.